I was just a student at Manchester School of Art when Pip Nichols from The Distractions introduced me to Tony Davidson, who was looking for a designer at the time. And when Tony saw my folder, it either contained fairly coherent sketches which I'd done in the life drawing room while I was sober, or sketches I'd done in the Students' Union bar when I maybe wasn't. So Tony was a brave man to entrust me with designing the TJM posters and record sleeves, some of which we revisited when he flew to Stockholm to interview me for the book. My later career, which bizarrely led to awards and a place in the permanent collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum, owed practically nothing to my tutors, who all but one had slated my work, and it owed a lot to that chance meeting with Tony. Tony Davidson helped pave the way for countless genre-defining acts when he bought that building in the middle of Manchester at the age of 24, and instead of converting it into luxury flats and retiring at, say, the age of 25, turned it into his rehearsal studios and made it the headquarters of his record label, a label which refused to control or commercialize its artists. Now, he did all that, but Tony also did something else which I feel had a symbolic value and which must have had an effect on all of us who passed through the TJM portal. Something that tinged our creative output, because Tony had 40,000 square foot of brick walls, floorboards, ceilings, corridors, and stairwells that needed to be painted. The a la mode colour of that year was lavender blush white. Lavender blush white. Tony didn't go for that, did he? No, he went for the murkiest, muddiest, densest brown that could possibly have existed. In fact, it was so brown it didn't even exist. I looked it up in the Pantone catalogue where it's so nebulous it wasn't even there. Now, it was so brown, but it was glorious. It was so brown you could hardly see where the corners of the room were. Now, Johnny Marr and plenty of others even slept in those studios at various times. None of us who were cocooned in our embryonic state within those walls can have been left untinged, including at least 6 decade-defining acts. Joy Division, New Order, Buzzcocks, early incarnations of Simply Red and the Smiths. If Tony had gone with the lavender white, we might have been singing along to songs in years to come with titles like Heaven Knows I'm Quite Cheerful Now. The cultural impact would not have been the same. And it's tinges like that which symbolise one of the many reasons why so much of what comes out of Manchester is real. You know, it's what happens when creativity is allowed to flourish independently of the a la mode. And Tony was discerning. I was drummer and co-writer in the Thunderboys, which was Carmel McCourt's first band, as a matter of fact. And we'd put out a single on another label which didn't do very much and were mainly performing as a support act to other more famous bands. So I asked Tony for a record deal. And he said no, which at that point in time was absolutely the right thing to do. Yes, it was, because we weren't fully tinged. And as compensation for that rejection, he, together with Joy Division, thank you guys, allowed us to use Joy Division's rehearsal room free of charge while they were on tour. And I think Tony might have had something in mind, because he watched us become more and more tinged. And by the time we were fully tinged, bam, we split up. And Carmel went off and became a superstar in her own right, forming Carmel. And I moved to London feeling very grateful to Tony Davidson. 1, Tony had paid me more per record sleeve than I needed for a whole term's rent and expenses, and considering there were twice as many record sleeves as there were terms during my time at Manchester, I was quids in. 2, just like he did for many others, Tony gave me a springboard into my career. And tonight, I wish that I could be with all the rest of you fully tinged people at the launch of the TJM book. I hope you have a really, really great evening.
Well, I remember going to TJM on Little Peter Street. It was a very dark part of town in those days. It was really down the back alleyways and everything. And you thought, blimey, you know, are we going to the right place, or are we just going to get our heads kicked in? And I remember going down there, because I can't remember exactly how it came about that we were going down there, but we've been told about this guy, Tony Davidson, and TJM, and we were saying, like, you know, it was kind of, oh, right, who's Tony Davidson then? Who is he? And he said, he's a jeweller. I said, a jeweller? What are we going seeing a jeweller for? And then he turned up in quite a flash car, and I'm sure leather trousers and a mullet, and we're like, really? Is this one of the punk godfathers of the Manchester scene? This guy looked like a footballer. So we talked. I think we probably instinctively distrusted him at the time, but no one else was interested in us. We had a band called She Cracked, and then it became apparent that in the Rehearsal studios, which was a real sort of Dickensian warren of a place, very dark and lots of, you know, faint smell of damp and sort of, you know, murky landings and things, and a lift that looked like you were taking your life in your hands by going into it. But then we did realise there were lots of bands in there. Joy Division rehearsed upstairs, a certain ratio were in there at some point. I remember a band called Emergency being in there, because when we were signing our contract with TJM, it needed some witnesses, and so Tony dragged in some of the members of Emergency to countersign this contract, and they were like, oh, taking your life in your hands, now signing your lives away, lads, and all this, you know. And so we thought, I don't know, are we were so naive, so there was a good kind of collective of musicians in there. It was clear that whatever Tony was doing, that there was it was a bit of an enabler for young musicians who had nowhere to go. So, you know, it was kind of a place where you felt, yeah, there is a creative buzz around this. And so then Tony told us that he was making this compilation album of Manchester bands called Identity Parade. And so he suggested that we went to Smile Studios in Whalley Range with a lovely guy who's now passed away, I believe, called Steve Foley. And we scraped together all the money we had. I think it was a 16 track. And we went in there for a day and recorded 3 songs, one of which, Warren Rowe, was on the Identity Parade album, and actually was the track off that album that got played by John Peel, which we're absolutely thrilled about. Although he got it the wrong way around. He said it was She Cracked by Warren Rowe. Being an inept DJ, that was his calling card, you know. But we were on the John Peel show on TJM Records. And so, so I think that, TJM and Tony do have an important story to tell about the development of lots of bands, obviously much bigger than She Cracked, but, you know, certain ratio. V2 rehearsed there for a while. They were a big Manchester band, sort of glam punk for a while. But, you know, those famous photos of Joy Division rehearsing, and a couple of videos, actually, you know. So it reminds me of those golden times when it seemed such a creative place to be in Manchester, and people like Tony Wilson were sort of making us feel we could achieve everything without leaving Manchester. But in another sort of way, Tony Davidson did sort of make us feel that way, that, you know, all right, here was a jeweller in his leather trousers with his flash car, but he had some kind of interest in helping bands out, giving them somewhere to rehearse, enabling them to be heard on the radio. No one else did that for us. We got on John Peel because of Tony Davidson, you know, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Hi boys and girls, Mick Rossi here. Anthony Davidson, what can we say? Bit of a Manchester legend, really. It's quite remarkable that at such a young age he had the foresight to put a rehearsal studio together in Manchester, because there was none when we were growing up. It was scout huts and the fucking box room at your mum's house. So he really provided an epicentre for all those upcoming bands to congregate there and really find out who we were as musicians, and also trying to define our own style. So I think TJM Rehearsal Studios is a very important part of Manchester musical history. And Swamp the Dogs, my band, used to rehearse there. And then after that, I used to rehearse there with Studio Sweetheart, was a band after Swamp the Dogs, with my dear friend Billy Duffy. And we were actually looking for a singer, and that's when Billy brought Morrissey down, and we had a bit of a play, and so, you know, it had all these historic sort of bits and bobs that make it really, really a special place, along with all the other great bands that played there, like Joy Division and New Order, Buzzcocks. It was just endless. So yeah, you know, hats off to you, Tony. Anyway, in Studio Sweethearts, we had a song called I Believe, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of that, and have a great night, guys. I know it's for charity, so you know, good luck to you. I believe living with you, it brings me through night and day. Oh, yes, I believe that living with you, the things that you do can bring your love. From me,
And it's good night from him. Good night.
good night. Have a good one, guys.
Hiya, Lou Macari here. I've just come on to apologise for not being able to be there tonight. Unfortunately, when Tony and I got together, probably after 40 years since the last time we met, Tony arranged the date which he thought was free of football, but unfortunately with Manchester United, who I work for, it wasn't free of football, so I'll be at Old Trafford against West Ham. But Tony, have a great night. You deserve everything that you get. We go back 40 years, lots happened in the 40 years, and we used to come down to record at the studio. And I think I remember we recorded Onward, Sexton Soldiers. It'd be no surprise to everyone there, it didn't get to #1 or anywhere near #1, but brilliant. In the, I think in the minds and hearts of Manchester United supporters, whether it was Onward, Sexton Soldiers or whatever, anything to do with Manchester United is a big hit. So that's why I'm not there tonight. I'm at Old Trafford, but I'd like to wish Tony and everyone there a great evening. Thanks very much.